Right, thank you very much. Welcome to the Executive Scrutiny Board meeting Tuesday the 12th of January. Do you have any apologies?
I have no apologies, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Any declarations of interest?
Chair, can I just remind people that I'm the council's, one of the council's representatives onto the Derby Homes Board, and we've obviously got an item here on Derby Homes.
Okay. What will you do at that? You'll just register a non-pecuniary interest, will you?
Yeah, I'm there on behalf of the council, so I don't think there's any conflict.
Okay, that's fine. Thanks, Lucy. Okay, item 4, minutes of the meeting held on the 8th of December. You've had those. Can I take those as true and accurate record? Shall we note those?
Great.
Okay. Item 5, the forward plan. You've had the copy of that. You've had a chance to have a look at it. Any comments, or do you want to note it? Are you okay about the forward plan? Okay.
Let's note it.
Thank you very much. Okay. Right. Council Cabinet responses to scrutiny recommendations. That was also attached. You've had a chance to have a look at those. I think that's for noting as well. So any issues arising from that? Let's move on to item 7, Council Cabinet agenda, which is for tomorrow. The main item on that is item 8, Ravensdale Infant and Nursery School new school project. Who's talking us through this? Is it Gamal?
Chair, yes it is. It's myself.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Great,
Okay,
thank you, Chair. I'll draw out headlines on the report. So this report is in relation to the fire at Ravensdale Infant School. We're now at a stage of wanting to place orders to start the design work. So 1.2 of the report outlines that approval is being sought for 2 elements. One element being to start the design works for the capital scheme for the permanent new school with an estimated cost of £601,000. And then the second point relates to placing orders to kind of secure key components of the new building, for example steel works, at a cost of £442,000. And the report also outlines that it is proposed that each element will be funded from the insurance settlement. In terms of the main body of the report, 4.3 outlines that it's necessary to start and develop the design process, and of course the council is working very closely in partnership with the school and the contractors to be appointed. The estimated cost of the new build is £8 million, but design work needs to progress first in order to establish the likely costs. The council's loss adjuster has confirmed approval to these works going ahead as proposed, and therefore orders will be placed in order to start the design process. And then finally, Chair, 4.12 outlines that further reports will come into Council Cabinet at April 2021 once the design process has began to progress. And 4.13 outlines, of course, again, importance of working closely with the school. We will do in terms of the design and governance process that's in place, and that the new build will have sprinklers installed, and the recommendations are outlined in the report. Happy to take any questions, Chair.
Thank you, Gamal. Whilst Lucy's busy typing away, I'll take Paul Pegg first of all, and then come back to Lucy. Paul.
Gamal's answered my question. He's putting sprinklers in because there was nothing in the papers about it. I just wanted to ask the question to ensure that sprinklers were being added as it means it's a new school bill. That was all, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Lucy, did you want to come in?
I did, thank you, Martin. The sprinklers are mentioned, and my first point was to thank the officers for including sprinklers. They should be in every new school, every old school as well for that matter, but let's make sure they're in every new school. But I was disappointed in the statement here. I want to say that very positively that this we absolutely need a new build school. But I was disappointed that in terms of the climate implications, all we have there as paragraph 9.1 is that the replacement school will comply with modern building regulations and benefit from modern energy efficient plant and equipment. For a council that has passed a motion to say that we need to be going carbon zero, we haven't got a date yet, but we have got a decision. That is a really weak comment in terms of climate implications. What we should be doing is building a school that is either carbon zero from the start or can easily be amended to become carbon zero in due course to meet whatever target we set, which a lot of our councils are setting as being 2030. Our following national building regulations, I'm sorry, is not good enough. They are lagging behind the ambition that this country and every country needs to have. So I want to put a recommendation in, not saying all that, Chair, but a recommendation in that we need to do something on that. So can I finish typing?
Yes,
I hope people will support me on that.
Well, I think you need to be fairly quick, Lucy, if you can, please, because we may be needing to move on if there's no more people wishing to contribute. Can I ask for any more contributions, please, on this matter? I think it's only fair that we allow Lucy 2 or 3 minutes just to...
Chair for me. Yeah, I think Lucy's right. We do need to look at if we rebuilding these schools and that, or building new schools. We need to look at the environmental impacts and so on and so forth, and do it whatever we can to encourage the school children and everything to participate in future years. So I think that what Lucy said is quite right, and when she's typed it up, I'm more than happy to support her.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think she'll probably receive the support. Just look at the wording.
I'm happy.
Here we go.
Does that? What I've suggested. I want to first say that we welcome the inclusion of sprinklers in the new school. And the second point is that we recommend to Cabinet that the new school should be designed to be carbon zero from the start, or at least that the design allows for the buildings to be made zero carbon in an efficient manner in the near future.
Thank you very much, Lucy.
I'm being consistent in that. Should it be carbon zero or zero carbon? There should be consistency in that. Which do people think it should be?
I'm happy to go with whatever you say.
Carbon zero. Let's go carbon zero. Whoever's taking the minutes off here, could they make it carbon zero, please?
Stephen, are you okay with that?
Maybe we should say, can we say carbon zero in operation, because we're not expecting them to build it without investing any
carbon zero in operation.
In operation.
Stephen, with that.
Chair, so I'm just checking through the wording here. So is it carbon zero
in operation?
Right at the end, it's carbon zero in operation.
No, in operation. In operation in the first time. First is more important.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right. Do you have a second for that?
Yes, I'll second that, Chair.
Thanks, Paul.
Okay. Is there anybody that objects? Can you please shout out if you object? Otherwise, I'll take this as affirmation. No, I think that's unanimous. Sorry? Was anybody else speaking? No. Okay. That's that pass. Right. Thank you very much for that. Moving on.
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I've got that.
Okay, moving on to item 9, council tax base for 2021-22. Simon, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. This is a standard report that we are required to bring in front of Cabinet. It can only be determined after the 1st of December, and the council must determine its Band D equivalent council tax base for the purpose of council tax setting in your meeting in February. This year, the report actually indicates that there's a reduction in the number of Band D equivalents that the council can charge council tax on, and I think members are hopefully aware that this is a mixture of the number of properties, any reliefs such as single person discount that we give, any support for local council tax support, to come up with what is known as a Band D equivalent. Paragraph 4.5 of the report talks about some of the changes that we've experienced in terms of a reduction in the number of new houses we expect in the year, an increase in the council tax support awards as a result of the financial impact of the pandemic, and some small changes around single person discount and long-term empty and unoccupied properties. The report also indicates that we are assuming a collection rate of 97.5%. This is in the table in Appendix 1, which is a reduction from the assumed collection from previous years as a result of the pandemic. So, in conclusion, Chair, the report is indicating a reduction in the number of bandy equivalents that we will be assuming in the budget that council tax can be charged on, and obviously that had a consequential impact on the MTFP, which was amended in the report, which has been issued for consultation in December. Thank you, Chair. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Simon. Do we have any questions at all for Simon? At this stage,
sorry.
Council tax base. Sorry, Lucy.
Oh, thanks, Martin. I've forgotten to ask. Can I just say that I'm really interested in the extension of the higher rates of council tax for empty properties, and I just wondered whether you could give any indication on how easy it has actually been to collect this council tax for empty properties.
The ease of it is it's easy if we know that the properties are empty and we get the right notifications at the right point in time. We don't, obviously in the past year, have much ability to carry out inspections or whatever, so there is an element of self-policing on here. But yes, we collect that in exactly the same way. Once it's on the debit, it becomes a legal debt relating to that particular property. So we are as effective on that as any other debt collection, but I would probably caution that, especially at this time, have we got the true view of the premium that we can charge on empty properties? I'm not sure.
And I was just thinking that if somebody's occupying a property, it's very clear who you're sending the bill to. When you have an empty property, it may be that the bill doesn't get to the right person.
And you may be correct in that assumption. In a normal environment, we would obviously have some property inspectors doing visual inspections and everything else. That is not as easy as you might appreciate under a COVID world.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Any more contributions at all from anybody? If not, thank you for that, Simon. Moving on to financial support for families during school holidays. Who's taking this, please?
Bernard Fenton.
Bernard?
Okay. Sorry, Chair, I was just messing about with my mute button there.
That's okay. Welcome, Bernard. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. What I'd like to do, if it's okay with you, Chair, is just highlight the key elements of the report, if that's okay.
Yes. Okay.
I'll talk to the highlights. So, this paper responds to the Council's motion that was passed the 25th of November, looking to provide a meal a day for all children that are eligible for free school meals during time when they're not in school holiday period. And this paper responds to that motion and is designed around the wider desired outcomes for disadvantaged children in receipt of free school meals, Chair. And it's about developing family resilience as well, to be honest. What we've wanted to do with this paper is propose an approach that balances the collective desire to address child poverty in Derby with the legal obligation that the Council must prepare a balanced budget. As I'm sure all members on this scrutiny are aware, we are out to consultation on an MTFP and looking at significant savings to be made over the next 3-year period. The reason that this is significant, Chair, is that the cost of providing a free school meal for the number of children eligible in Derby is around the region of £2 million per year. So the rationale behind this proposal is we want to combine short-term interventions, such as providing a meal per day for these children, with a programme of longer-term support for the most vulnerable families and individuals, And it really is about developing, whilst we're making sure or ensuring that children have that that meal per day, we want to make sure we're developing household and community resilience. So hopefully the families won't be in that position again. The combination of short-term support such as food provision with a programme of personalised household support. So what we want to do is help households maximise benefit take-up, develop practical skills such as preparing healthy meals on a budget, give them access to activity programmes, and use government grants wherever possible to help create a more sustainable programme that builds that resilience I've been talking about. This approach, Chair, is in line with Derby's recovery plan as the city emerges at the time we were writing this from the COVID-19 pandemic, and it sees us continuing to work, Chair, alongside and with our NHS, cultural, voluntary and community sector partners. In putting this proposal together, it's been a truly collaborative approach, Chair. I'd like to draw your attention, if I may, to the detail headlines of the proposal in the paper, and that can be found, he says, scrolling down the report really quickly, at 4.9. I'd like to spend some time just going through this, if I may, Chair. Okay. So at the centre of this programme is the Holiday and Activity Food Programme for 2021, which delivers a coordinated free holiday provision, including healthy food and enriching activities from Easter 2021. We will ensure, we're not at the design stage yet, Chair. We need to take these proposals and begin the actual design of this programme, which is new to this city. But we want to design that holiday activity and food programme to provide a meal a day for children eligible for free school meals and who attend provision. It will be made available for a week at Easter, 4 weeks during the summer and a week at Christmas. We absolutely recognise that will not meet all of the requirements of what essentially, Chair, are 10,776 children at the minute who are eligible for free school meals, which is why we're also putting a number of other services around this. The Holiday Activity and Food Programme is clearly comes with a government grant. In addition to that, we're going to provide, the Council is proposing to provide free school meal vouchers for the spring and autumn half term, which will be funded out of contingencies and reserve, as well as providing funding for the provision of additional food for these families, which in the time since this report has been written, Chair, will become a combination of vouchers and food parcels where appropriate. The resilience piece, Chair, then gives us the opportunity to identify services that will help our most vulnerable families. And as I said earlier, that's about providing benefits advice, ensuring access to specialist services, and using those community partnerships that are now well established in the city, such as the Derby Advice Alliance and with the Council's Welfare Reform Team, as well as the Food for Thought Alliance, which the motion on the 25th of November commended their work in this area. We're also wanting the programme to support the wider public health outcomes, because yes, there is a need to address the immediate issues which the provision of a meal a day for these children will address, but it's also about how we can tackle that childhood obesity by providing the opportunity for healthy meals, physical activities and nutritional education, along with advice and guidance for parents. And whilst that is being delivered, the proposal is that whilst that is being delivered, Chair, up until the end of December this year, a newly established poverty committee will develop and recommend a robust and sustainable plan to further address that from that point going forward. I'm fairly sure that I'd like to finish at that point and take any questions, Chair.
Yeah, nothing personal against you, Bernard, but in the words of Marcus Radford, this is just not good enough. We've seen all the problems about food parcels on today's news, and now that can go badly wrong. And we all understand the difficulties there may be in the budget, but we also understand the dire need, certainly in these COVID times, of these very vulnerable children and families. And we want something that's non-stigmatising. And we believe vouchers are the best way of dealing with that. So that's why at the top, I've got a recommendation to Cabinet that Cabinet implements in full the motion agreed at full council to provide children and families with support via vouchers for all school holidays 2020-21. But let me take before we debate that, let me take some questions and some comments. We've got Stephen first of all, please, then Richard, then Paul Pegg. Stephen.
Thanks, Chair. And I don't know how you want to handle this, but I've got it won't surprise you to know that I have a number of questions on this paper. So do you want me to table them all in one go, or yes, would you like me to?
If you would, Stephen, I'd be grateful. Thanks.
Firstly, I just wanted some advice on sort of basis of this paper, as I think you've referred to, Chair, really, is there was a motion passed by full council. So why is Cabinet not just implementing that? So what is the basis constitutionally for this paper actually being approved through Cabinet when full council has been very clear on its views? First of all, Chair. Now, secondly, if we take your recommendation actually and start to unpick some of the areas where I think there's discrepancies between the motion at full council and what's in this paper. Right at the top in recommendation 2.3, why is this just the spring and autumn half term? You know, why? Because the recommendation clearly talks about it being, you know, for all the holidays as well. So why are you just talking about the spring and autumn half term? You know, and you know, I've also got another one. Sorry, I'm having to move around the papers here a bit, but and linked with that, it talks just before at the bottom of paragraph 4.6. It talks about that it's eligible for children, you know, 4 hours a day, 4 days a week, 6 weeks a year. So what about the other weeks of the Easter and Christmas holidays? And why is it only for 4 and not 5 days a week, Chair? So that's if you know, like, is the first question. Then if we go on to the other points of the motion at full council, which said that healthy start vouchers, and you've referred to vouchers, of course, Chair, should be increased in value to £4.25. So where's this figure, a mention of this increase in the actual report? And then, of course, we mustn't forget that the motion also refers to council writing to the Secretary of State for Education. So has that happened? Yeah. Also the Secretary of State for Health. So has that actually happened, Chair? You know, because that's not mentioned in the paper either. And then it also, you know, on the final points of the motion, on the final 3 points, point 1 talks about the eligibility. So there's nothing in this paper about, as I can see, about the criteria and eligibility, you know, for free school meals. They seem to just be going to a limited set, whereas the motion require for every family in receipt of universal credit or equivalent. So where is that in this motion? And then it does, I know it does refer to a child poverty commission, but where is that actually covered in the report in terms of, you know, in terms of the detail in the actual motion itself? And also, it's very clearly, I think, it just talks about this to the end of 2021, whereas the motion itself talked to, you know, going forward beyond the end of 2021 as well. And then if you look at the bottom of point 4.9 on that poverty commission, well, there was a whole work on child poverty in the city done by the Children and Young People's Scrutiny Board in 2018 to 2019. And that made a number of recommendations, and, you know, I was part of that. So what's happened? Why aren't they just, you know, what's happened to looking at those recommendations and putting those, you know, in the mix of this as well? Yeah, and I also think that why why don't we add this? You know, it talks about in paragraph 7.1, it's not contained within the NTFP. We've got a chance now to add it to the NTFP. So why don't we do that? And then, you know, and then also at the bottom of 6.2, what's the source of all the funding? If there's no, if it's, as it says there, there's no additional government funding available. I think I've filled my boots there on the questions.
I think you have, Stephen. Well done. I think you covered all. But Bernard or Simon, who's the best to answer the questions? Are you going to do it between you, or who's best to answer?
Simon.
If Bernard starts off, I'll try and I tried to pick up a lot of the points there, and I'll try and pick up any that Bernard doesn't cover.
Okay, Bernard, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair. I made a note of the questions, so hopefully I've got them all. If I've not, would you please remind me of them? The first one was raised about paragraph 2.3, referring to the fact that we're only providing vouchers for spring and half term only. What we're trying to do here, Chair, is provide this proposal will provide a combination of vouchers and or food parcels for every child every day through every day of the school holidays. And to do that, we are adopting an approach which combines the holiday food programme as well as issuing vouchers through council funding as well. The Marcus Rashford point is a very interesting one, and I've spent the last several weeks discussing this with Food for Thought. This council, through its council services, has been issuing vouchers to customers for 4 years. It is without doubt for most families a way that gives them choice, dignity and independence. And we are wanting to extend the range of those vouchers throughout this programme so that we can provide the children who don't attend that holiday activity programme with those vouchers. There are some families, Chair, who would benefit more from an actual food parcel, and that would be very much in conversations with the Food for Thought Alliance in the last few weeks, would very much be on an exception basis. So hopefully I've covered the vouchers bit. It is something we are very familiar with. We have mature systems in place, and we are working very closely with the Food for Thought Alliance to ensure we can make that citywide. And that will be part of the design that we put into the implementation of this proposal. 4.6, the councillor referred to, where the holiday activity programme is 4 hours over 4 days for 4 weeks during the summer. It is limited to that. That's what the funding covers. And again, we will use the vouchers, food parcels and the funding that is being put in place from the council to ensure that we pick up the gaps that does not cover. Healthy Start vouchers was the next point, I understand, Chair, that was raised. Healthy Start vouchers are for children under the age of 4 and therefore don't qualify for free school meal vouchers. Obviously, it's a means tested. It goes up from £4. It goes up to £4.25 per child under the age of 4 from the 1st of April. Every single one of our advice services across the city encourage people to apply for that, and we will continue to do that. And for those children under the age of 1, that's actually £8.50 from the 1st of April. So it's clearly something that we have continued to support, to promote, and we will continue to do that. But it's very much for those children who are under the age of 4. In terms of eligibility requirement, free school meals, one of the criteria, one of the criteria for actually eligibility for free school meals is to be in receipt of universal credit with a household income that's less than a certain amount, which can be £617 in the universal credit assessment period immediately before the date, £1,850 in the UC assessment period. They're fairly complex, but it links low household income with universal credit, and therefore it's a means tested criteria, and we are using the same criteria that the DWP, who manage the free school meals provision during term time, use. The Poverty Commission I'm less familiar with. I wasn't involved in the CYP 2018-19 Scrutiny Board, wasn't around it either. I would imagine that any commission would be taking up all the learning and recommendations from previous boards and not starting from a standing start, but use that to inform. I can't really comment on 7.1, which is not contained with the TFP, and the constitutional piece, which perhaps, Simon, you could pick up for me?
Yes, Simon will pick that up when you finish, Bernard.
Yeah, I don't think I've missed any of the points that the councillor raised.
Okay.
I'll have to go back over.
Thank you very much, Bernard. Over to Simon to mop up. Simon, is it constitutionally correct about this cabinet paper coming as a cabinet paper, and about, has anybody written to the Secretary of State as we requested at full council?
Right. In terms of committing resources and matching resources to council priorities, that is a cabinet executive function, and therefore the motion had to come as a cabinet report to consider how this issue is built into our financial plans going forward and what is the policy objective and deliverables attached to it. So absolutely, in order for this to be considered, it is a cabinet report and it will go into the MTFP as members consider it in February. So in terms of the comment on whether we've written to the Secretary of State, I don't know the answer to that because I haven't followed that one up today, but we can get an answer for Cabinet tomorrow night.
If we can, because sadly I suspect that nobody's written as we asked, and if that is the case, I think we must ask why. But okay, let's leave that for now. That's for, I think, for elected politicians to answer. First of all, we've got Richard and then Paul Pegg. Richard, over to you.
Good evening. My question's quite simple, just something what went through my head when I was actually reading through this with that motion in mind. Have we got any examples of what other local authorities have done, if anything?
Simon or Bernard?
May I pick that one up, Simon?
We believe, from just doing some trawling, is that we are not aware of any other local authority who is committing to this continuation post the end of 2020-21 as a specific motion, but it may be they will come to other councils, but no, we're not aware of anything, Richard.
Right, thank you, Simon.
Where we lead, others will follow, hopefully. Paul Pegg and then Lucy Gare. Paul Pegg.
Yeah, I'm just wondering about these activity meals. What type of meals are going to be provided? Are they going to be pre-cooked or what? Because you know, or are they coming where they are similar to hospital type foods, where they all come prepared and you bang them in a microwave? Can anybody answer those questions for us, please? Because they're not that healthy.
Bernard or Simon?
Paul, Chair, may I pick this one up?
Yeah, sure.
The holiday activity programme, to reassure you, Chair, has been run in 19 different local authorities over the last 3 years, and there is significant, well, it's quite a lot of material, learning material, from those 19 pilots over 3 years, which we have got copies of what is available. The government grant comes with very clear guidance that these must be nutritional meals for the children attending, and clearly the ambition, for the collective ambition, is to ensure that we do provide in the design of the holiday activity programme meals for children in that programme that are nutritional.
Okay, right, thank you very much for that. Lucy.
Thank you, Chair. Two things. One is an observation which I just wanted to voice, which is that there are people who will come into schools to actually use cooking of simple but nutritious meals for primary school kids as part of an education activity. And for some schools that might be a useful thing to bear in mind. But I was actually going to ask about the funding of this, which seems to have caused some concern about it drawing on what might have been adult social care funding by increasing the amount of the council tax. Now, I don't think that's the case, but I just think it would be helpful to have it explained why this isn't actually taking money from adult social care.
Okay, is that for you, Simon?
I think it could be, Chair.
Thankfully.
Local government is financed through a mixture of government grant, council tax, business rates retained, and the government gives a series of announcements every year in what is called core spending power, which includes the ability to increase council tax up to a certain limit within the referendum criteria. I can give the assurance to the committee that the increasing costs that we have in adult social care between 2020 to 21 and 21-22 is more than the precept that we are recommending in this report, which would be now the 3% on top of 1.99%, so a 4.99% increase, and therefore we are fully compliant with the sort of council tax precepting rules. And secondly, we do not hypothecate matching any funding source to any particular outcome, but this is just to show the movement from a budget that was issued for consultation on the 16th of December. So Council Care is right that some of the local coverage that has happened in the past 24 hours is that this is not using adult social care precept to fund free school meals. It's part of the overall funding framework for local government that we're allowed to operate in.
Okay,
Martin, Chair, may I re-express that in a slightly less technical manner and say that it's like we've decided that our cake isn't quite big enough, but we haven't actually decided exactly where we're going to slice our cake. And if you imagine that the slice of cake that was going to be for adult social care, we're going to put the extra bit on the outside of the cake. So now the slice is a little bit longer. It sticks out from the rest of the cake. But we're going to make it slightly narrower. But the total amount of cake is at least as much as we started with. Is that okay, Simon? Well, you can do it with pizza if you prefer.
Like, it's about the cake has got slightly bigger, and
yes,
the funding source of the ingredients going in it are slightly bigger as we maximise the funding source that is available under the council tax regulations, yes.
Someone left the cake out in the rain. Right, moving on to Miles Patterson. Miles.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I just had a question. It was just, I think it's going to be for Simon again, just regarding your recommendation, actually, that you put in the chat. And I was just wondering how we would go about funding the recommendation that Martin's put in the chat.
Yeah. Miles, where there's a will, there's a way. We start with democracy.
It's a question for Simon, actually, Chair. Thank you.
Oh, well, was it? Oh, sorry. Okay, Simon, how's it going to be funded?
The council needs to, when it sets its budget, consider the financial sustainability of the budget and the use of resources to match to the spending plans of the council. If the recommendation was to be approved, it would require an additional budget to be identified over and above this report. And at the moment, based on the budget for consultation, that would have to come from reserves. And I asked members to cast their mind back to December, which stated a level of reserves, and especially the non-committed reserves, which would mean that this would deplete our reserves. And my advice is that with all the uncertainty at the moment of the national financial position, is that we should not be drawing on reserves to deplete our financial sustainability. At the moment, the budget being recommended is a balanced budget without any use of reserves. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah. All right. Cheers, Simon. Thank you.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, as Chair of Executive Scrutiny and members, it's up to us to decide what recommendations we want to make to Cabinet, bearing in mind what the Council have already said. But let's park that for a second. Fareed, over to you. You've got a question or comment?
Thank you, Chair. I think the medium-term financial plan confused me but I did get some clarification from Alison this morning, because the increase in budget was put at 900,000. Now, 900,000 is a lot less than a 3% increase in the precept would necessitate, because from what I can understand, each percentage point increase in council tax should generate additional income of around about 900,000. So if the precept is 2.5 or 3%, then it should be somewhere around £2.5 to £3 million increase. Can you, Simon, give me the total spend figure? How much did we spend on adult care services last year, and how much will we be spending in 2021-22 in total? And does that amount to around about 2.5, 3 million increase in the budget compared to last year's budget?
Simon?
Thank you. In looking at the comparison between last year and this year, there's been a series of pressures which are contained within the budget for consultation and inflation for cost of provision. That combined is 4.5 million, I think, increase in adult social care spend between the financial years. A 1% council tax increase is approximately 1 million. Councillor Hussain, in respect of that, so 3% would be 3 million. So the increase in adult social care spend is in excess of the adult social care precept that we are suggesting or recommending in the budget for consultation as amended by this report if it's to be approved. So in that context, the increase in cost is more than the additional precept that is available to local authorities to charge for social care.
Okay, thank you, Simon. I think we've got a final question from Stephen. Stephen, you want to ask a question linked to Freeds?
Fareed, and your comment actually, Chair, as well, is that you say where there's a will and stuff. Really, how much sort of headroom in the finances is there to reallocate some of the money that's come from COVID, seeing as a lot of this, the rational reason for this is due to the COVID pandemic. Some of the extra money that the council has had in from the COVID pandemic, how much headroom is there to sort of reallocate that into this from maybe some other schemes that are happening in some wards, particularly, I suppose, not like some of these temporary transport schemes and other things? Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Simon?
Thank you. The government has given a mixture of funding in this year, some specific ring-fence grants, such as for transport schemes that Councillor Willoughby mentioned, some unring-fence grants, such as the general COVID allocations. Some are in relation to this financial year only, some are available to go into the next financial year. As the question is we have a council-wide response to COVID, both in terms of outbreak management, in terms of meeting the impact of COVID on our communities, in terms of specific interventions. As with every financial decision, every policy decision, it's balancing those up and saying, how are we going to utilise that money? But at the moment, the report highlights some use of a provision we included in the budget for consultation, which was in a sense a emerging COVID pressures budget that is in the budget for consultation. So it's not